You see this little red button down here?
Mm-hmm.
That means you're recording now. So now, go over here to camera one. Yep, click on that. And now you're live. Well, you're not live, but you're recording. So introduce yourself and introduce the story you're gonna say.
Welcome to Do This to Get to That. I'm your host, Big Black, and I got a lot of stories to tell. So kick back, relax, and check it out. It was back in 1969, around 69, early 69. I was with the Masekela Ensemble, Hugh Masekela, beautiful trumpet player from South Africa, at the time being managed by Stuart Levine, who was an old friend of mine from New York. We were all on the West Coast after they had commandeered me to play with Masekela after finding me playing at the Both Hand Club in San Francisco one night. Anyway, we started playing together, and Masekela got this piece that he recorded. I wasn't on that piece, but the rest of the band was, because I was doing something else at the time when they recorded Grazing the Grass, and that was the tune that became a hit. It was a good tune because it opened up a lot of gigs for everybody. At the time, the band consisted of Masekela, who's the band leader. The bass player's name was John. I forgot John's last name, but John was the bass player. Charlie Smalls was on piano. Chuck Carter was on drums. Great group. And we all played well together, especially the rhythm section. And that's what the rhythm section was there basically to support Masekela, who was trying to get into jazz. You know, so he was never really a jazz player because South Africa had a style of their own. They might have called it jazz, but there was a name for it in South Africa. They were doing things like patanga and different South African terminologies that I'm not familiar with because I don't speak Zulu. Anyway, coming off of the hit record, Grazing in the Grass, we were invited to perform at the Firestone Mansion in Beverly Hills. I don't know who gave the party, but we were invited to play. I mean, Stuart had hooked all these things up. So he and Masekela knew everybody. I didn't know anybody, and at the time, I didn't really care about knowing people. I just went in and played the gig. I loved to play, and people loved to hear what I'm doing. I did it. Anyway, we went in that night. They were serving our champagne, beer, and hot dogs. That was the theme, the food theme of the bash at the Firestone Mansion. Hot dogs. Probably the worst food you could eat. I mean, that I found out later on. I wouldn't touch a hot dog now with a hot pole or with a cold pole. Nonetheless, we played the gig. We were very well received. People loved us. And this was a Thursday night. And the rest of the weekend, we were going to, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, we were going to perform at the Whiskey A Go-Go, which was on Sunset Strip in Hollywood. So it was Saturday night. We had a pack house. Everybody was there, the whole Hollywood set, whoever it was then. They were all there. The room was packed. They had a dress code. They weren't letting hippies in flip-flops and pants with their knees out like yours. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't get in dressed like that. Those kind of jeans, you would be turned away. So everybody had to be properly, what they call properly dressed, which was casual, but neat casual. There were two guys on the door. There was always one guy on the door while the other would take people that bought their tickets in and seat them, and he would come right back. And no one was allowed in the club without a ticket. If you didn't have a ticket, you could not get past these two guards on the door. The Whiskey Go-Go had several entrances, and they were all closed and had armed security blocking them if you tried to get out. So from that, we went to the dressing room. There was a long stairway leading from the dressing room to the alley outside the club. That door was only open to people who was coming in to rehearse and things of that nature during the period when guys would come in and sound check and things like that for their shows at night. That was the door that was used. You go up to the dressing room and come down the steps inside the club. What I'm trying to point out is that there was no way out of this club, and the only way in this club was through the front door where the tickets were sold. And that was the only way out, unless there was an emergency, and these huge doors would be open, allow people to get out in a hurry. And we hit about 9 o'clock, I think it was, about 9 o'clock we hit. And we started playing, and I got to say, we had the audience in the palm of our hands. Everybody was on to us. Everybody had seen us that Thursday night. A majority of the people in the room was at that party at the Firestone Mansion that Thursday night. So they were all there. They all turned out for us because they had heard us, they loved us, and the band was cooking. Everybody communicated. We had it together. This was one of Master Killer's best ensembles. And he has had many. He used to change cats every other week, it seemed, because in those days musicians came and they went, they went where the money was the best. You could just hire them the next week unless you had a contract. And usually there was no contract. It was just, a handshake. Cats would come in and play, and something better come up the next week. If they could, they'll send somebody in their place. If they couldn't, they just tell you they're gone, and they're gone, and you have to do without them. Nonetheless, we had a good band, and we were cooking. Me and Chuck and Charlie Smalls and John, the bass player. We had it together. We were tight. And when we opened up behind Master Killer, we made him play. And that's really what he wanted, somebody that make him play. And he played well. The band was sounding great. So we're cooking. We got the audience in the palm of our hands. And while all this is going on, I'm thinking to myself what I'm going to do when my solo turn came. I'm going to kill these people, because we had them. I mean, it's nothing like it when a group is tight, everyone is communicating, and they got the audience in the palm of their hands. And when your turn comes to solo, whatever you said on your instrument was going to be accepted, because people are now totally taken over by the vibrations of what the group was producing. And I was thinking individually at the time as to what I'm going to do to this audience when my turn came to solo. And we're cooking. And I'm playing with my eyes closed. And I'm thinking these things. When all of a sudden, the mood in the room began to change. The mood went from hot to medium hot to chill to downright cold. And then the people in the audience began to boo. Everybody was booing. And then they began to throw things. I heard things like cans being thrown on the dance floor, because we were playing on a stage and that is normally a dance floor, you know. We were on the back. People could come up on the stage and actually dance. And I opened my eyes to see the floor covered with trash. And standing in the middle of the floor is this small black lady with these big pink curlers in her hair, a pair of bedroom slippers, a blue flowery print muumuu, a dress, a muumuu, and a pink sweater thrown over her shoulder. And she was staring at me. She was standing right in front of me. This woman brought the entire show to a complete standstill. The people in the audience, you know, it sounded like a riot was about to take place, because anytime you interrupt the groove of a whole bunch of people, 200-300 people, and they begin to feel the disgrace of anyone interrupting that groove, they go crazy. You know, people start hurting each other, you know. And that's what was about to happen. This woman just stood there. She didn't say a word. And all of a sudden, the room tended to calm down. And the only person you heard screaming was Masakela screaming, "Call security. Get her off the stage. Somebody get this woman off the stage." Nobody made a move for some reason. It's as if this woman had the whole room hypnotized. And then she slowly walked towards me. I'm standing there behind my 3 drums. And when Masakela says, "Throw her off the stage," I asked the woman quietly, "What do you want, sister?" And she said to me in a sort of monotone voice, "I just want to play the drums." Now I can tell you, up to that point, I had 2 girls in my house, my wife. They were not allowed to touch my drums. No woman had ever, up to that point, touched my drums. My own kids, no woman. No woman. Men who could play, yes, they had touched my drums, but no woman. and this woman wants to play my drums. This is a big decision now for me, you know, because she's now going against all of my principles when it comes to playing the drums. So Master Killer said again, throw her off the stage. I said, hold it, man. She said she wanted to play the drums. We may as well let her play. After all, she just stopped our show. You know what I'm saying? We may as well let her play. Master Killer didn't say another word. I stepped back from my drums, opened my hands to the lady like that, says, hey, it's yours. So I'm playing 3 drums. My bass tuba, my middle tuba, and my small tuba at the end, which is, in Africa, the small drum is always the lead drum. Biggity, 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 biggity. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. Anyway, she walked up to the high drum, and she opened up on that drum. And the way she did it, she let everybody in the room know that she knew exactly what she was doing. And she started playing. And I walked up to my big bass and I took the second position. I knew what she was playing. I laid down the bottom beat, and this woman played everything that I thought I was going to do when my turn came to solo. She played that and more. And not only that, every negative vibes in the room turned to pure exuberance. And people were screaming like wild animals while this woman was playing. And when she got through playing, the room went berserk. We had never in our life had a standing ovation and people showing their appreciation for greatness like that night. So we took a break. Where could we go from this point? You understand what I'm saying? She had destroyed everything that we had set out to achieve that night musically on the stage. We had the people in the palm of our hand. She walked in and took them out of the palm of our hands into her hands, and she destroyed the room. She brought everybody back to life. She put that room back in the same groove it was in when she entered. So we took a break. I stepped out from behind my drums. The woman walked up to me and grabbed my hand. And we walked upstairs to the dressing room together. And while we were going up the steps, I asked her, I said, "Sister, where are you from?" She said, "New Orleans." When she said New Orleans, I felt a little rise in my hair and the pimples on my arm, your goose pimples, you know what I'm saying? Because I know New Orleans was famous for great musical situations and a lot of obeah and, ghostly things, spiritual things, all kinds, you know what I'm saying? Spirits and things of that nature. So we went upstairs, and I'm trying to start a conversation with this woman. Everybody seemed to be in the dressing room because the whole club was buzzing. The dressing room was packed with people. So I'm trying to get some information from this woman for the way she played. And every time I asked a question or tried to get a word into this woman, somebody would interrupt, man. It was weird. I never got to say another word to this woman. So I decided I just let her talk to whomever she wanted to talk to. She was about as close to me talking as that table right there. So I turned around to Charlie and I said, "Hey, Charlie, this sister looked like as though she can use a few bucks. Why don't you go around and make a little collection? You know what I'm saying? I got a piece here, and we'll give it to her, 'cause she looked like she can use it, you know." She didn't seem embarrassed about the way she was dressed or nothing. She was neat, but it was just the way she was dressed. The big pink curlers in her hair, the light blue muumuu dress with the pink sweater, and the bare bedroom flip-flop shoes. That's how she was dressed. And she had a stigma in her eyes. Her eyes were slightly crossed, you know what I'm saying? Just a slight stigma. So Charlie went about collecting this money. By this time, we were very close together talking, you know. She was as close to me as that table right there. I'm standing there talking to her face to face, trying to get a word edgewise into her, because everybody was on it. So Charlie walked up behind me and tapped me and said, "Hey, Black, I got the money." You understand? She's standing right in front of me. I turned to Charlie like this to get the money. And when I turned around to give the money to the sister, make a little speech and shit, you know, she was gone. The woman was gone. But I didn't think it was strange that she was gone. You know, I just decided, hey, she must have had to go to the bathroom or something, you know what I'm saying? Because it was an exciting night, and women get excited, they run to the bathroom, you know what I'm saying? So I asked one of the other girls, I said, "Hey, check the bathroom for the sister that just blew the house away down there, and tell her we got a gift for her. Come on back." Amen. We wound up searching every inch of that club, from top to bottom, every door. No one saw her come in the first place through the front door. She couldn't have come in through the stage door or the dressing room door or the big door that the guards were standing behind, because no one saw her. This woman appeared on the stage. And when she told me she was from New Orleans, I started putting two and two together, as many pieces as I could, to try to figure out who this woman was and how in the hell did she get where we was at. And I'd heard about people spirit traveling, you know. And this woman was obviously lying in her bedroom at home in New Orleans and meditating. And her spirit picked up the vibes that we were putting out with our total togetherness on the stage. The fact that we had this audience in the palm of our, that was some very, very strong vibrations. And somehow her spirit picked these vibrations up. Her spirit leaves her body, and she reappears on the stage where she heard the shit coming from. And there she was. We searched that club up and down, every guard, every man on the door, people out of the audience. Just like she appeared, she disappeared. True story. We never saw her again. But her image was in my mind to this day. I was in my early 30s at that time. I am now 86 years old. And whenever I'm performing, she appears in my mind, I have a great performance. So whatever she brought it for me. Whatever her reason was to play my drums, because it was my drums that drew her there. And she played my drums, and she correct every mistake, every insult that was hauled at us that night. She correct everything, and to let us know She didn't come for money. The moment we offered her money, she disappeared. She came to play my drums. True story. And to this day, no one has come up to with anything even close to what I just told you about how she could have done what she did. She came, nobody saw her, and when she left, no one saw her. And I mean, she disappeared. She appeared in a big crowd, and she disappeared out of a crowd. No one saw her leave. I just turned my back on her for a split minute to get this money from Charles. And when I turned around, the sister was gone. And I never even asked her name. Just where she from. New Orleans. End of story. Now I'm going to play you a little bit of what I heard her play that night. I would never profess to be what she was because she was special. And although I learned a lot more since that time, that night was the greatest lesson in drumming and expectation that I have ever experienced, and I have never experienced anything like it since. The only things that came close to experiencing that was twice in my life I was able to possess two women, and they were all women, with my drums. I didn't possess that first one, she possessed me. But I possessed a woman named Miss Scoogie Rice. She was from Trinidad. She was an Indian, and her husband Leo taught me the rhythm to play for her, which was a Shango rhythm, Macumba. Same rhythm that the samba is based on. I played that rhythm for her while she was dancing, and the next thing I knew, she had fainted, and they had to bring out the smelling salt and carried her off the stage to the dressing room. The second time was just a few years ago. I was doing a gig up in the wine country, up in Napa, Sonoma, at a club called the Blue Note. They got a Blue Note club out there that had just opened. And they got a jazz society up there that sponsored a concert with me and Larry Vukovich and his ensemble. And we were playing, and this woman was a newcomer. She was visiting from Mexico. Well, wasn't visiting. She had come to stay in San Francisco. She was from Mexico. And somehow or another, she began to focus on my drums while I was taking a solo. And the next thing you know, she was frothing out the mouth and fainting and fluttering and fainting all over the place. People had to pick her up, break out the smelling salt for her, and bring her back. And when she came back to herself, she ran up on the stage and grabbed me and held me tight. And she was trembling. And she said, never in my life have I ever experienced drumming like I just heard. And her husband was sitting off stage looking at her. And he was astounded too. But he was really, astounded at the way she acted because he had never seen her act like this in no situation involving music. That's a little bit of bebop from the Baron himself. Thank you.
Awesome. So hit stop recording. It's going to be the same button that you hit to start the recording. Right hand side. It's going to be that blue.